Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Note Music here today with another tutorial, and today we're going to be learning how to go from this to this. Let's get started. Before we dive in here, I'm just going to kindly ask you to hit that like button if you do find this video helpful, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you get updated on when I post my new videos. Okay, so in order to go from that really unorganized project to the really organized one, there's 5 things we have to do. Number 1, we have to make sure we name the tracks and regions appropriately. Number 2, we have to make sure everything is color coordinated in terms of the tracks and regions. Number 3, we have to make sure we create track stacks, so they're folders where all our tracks are organized based on what part of the song they are in. Number 4, we have to make sure we use the appropriate icons and assign them to each track so it's easier to find which track is what. And number 5, we have to make sure we make notes on our project as we go along in the notes window in Logic Pro X. If we take a look here, what do we not have? Well, all our tracks are not organized into track folders and stacks. They're kind of just all over the place. They are not named appropriately. They're just all named track. How am I supposed to find anything? Next, all our regions don't have a good name either. Nothing is color coded. Everything's green. It's hard to find what stands out from what if everything's the same color. Same thing with our tracks here. Next is the icons. I have a very difficult time telling what track belongs to what instrument if all the icons are practically the same. And then next is I have no notes made. How am I supposed to keep track of my project if I have no idea what I've even done and the steps I've taken along the way? So now we're going to get started incorporating each of those 5 things into this to go from the really unorganized project to the really tidy one. Let's go. Okay, so I've opened up a new project and it's defaulted to the classic electric piano, and I have 3 blank regions that I've created to help show you what's going on. Let's start with naming. Naming is really important. So naming the track and naming the regions. So if I want to name the track, let's say this wasn't a classic electric piano. Let's say there was a completely different instrument here. How I can rename it is I can right click here and I can go to rename track. The shortcut is the shift return or shift enter on my keyboard. And if I hit shift enter on my keyboard while I have that track selected, it is going to let me rename that track to whatever I want it. So what if I just want to name it piano? Whoops, I'm illiterate. Piano. There we go. So, piano. Now, same thing with these regions, except when it comes to naming regions, there's a few different shortcuts you can use. For example, if I wanted to, let's say, rename this one region, I can right-click, I can go to name and color, and it gives me, 2 options for naming. I can name them based on the corresponding track that they're associated to, or I can rename them based on any specific name I want to assign that region. So for example, all of these right now are named classic electric piano, but if I wanted to name them according to the track, I can go here and I can go Option Shift N on my keyboard. Okay, so if I hit Option Shift N on my keyboard, so Option Shift N, it will name that to the same name as the track. Same thing here. If I select both of these now, I can do the same thing, Option Shift N, and they will automatically be named whatever the track is named. Okay, but now let's say I want to name it something completely separate from what the track is named. So I can go here and I can go to Shift N and I can name it whatever I want. So let's say I want to go back to classic electric piano. Okay, now that's classic electric piano. All right, and that's that for naming. Next thing we're going to be going over is icons. How do you assign a specific icon to your track? Well, all you're going to do is you're going to right click the icon and it's going to open up this. So you have a bunch of different icons. Notice that some are more well-drawn images of specific instruments, and others are just shades of white and black. Okay, so for this, it's up to you what you want to choose. I actually prefer these ones here, these shaded black and white ones. Why? I will show you right now. So let's say I was to, I'm going to actually duplicate this so I can show you the effects of having a black and white icon versus a more well-drawn one. So if I click this here, okay, and I have, let's say, this one selected. So the benefit of having those black and white images and assigning them to your track icons is that when you change the color on those on the track, it shows in that specific icon, whereas this, the color doesn't change, which is what we're going to be diving into next. If I want to change the color on any of these on the regions or on the tracks themselves, I'm going to hit Option C on my keyboard, and I'm going to select whatever I want to change the color to. So let's say I want to change the color of this region to blue. I'm going to hit this blue color palette on here. If I want to change this region, I'm going to select that specific region, and I'm going to hit whatever color I want, let's say pink, all right, and so on and so forth. But usually don't want different colors for regions in the same track. Usually want to keep it the same, so we're going to keep it, let's say, blue. All right, I'm happy with blue. To change the color for that specific track, I can go about it one of two ways. I can either right-click here, and I can go to Assign Track Color. However, notice that there's no key command that is assigned to that by default. So what I like to do that is way easier is you're going to open up your mixer window by hitting Command 2 on your keyboard. You're going to select whatever track you want to change. Okay, so this is my piano track right here. It is named as such. And I'm going to click whatever color I want it to be. So let's say I want this to be pink. Okay, it's going to change the color in the mixer window, and that is consequently also going to change the color in this piano. So instead of right-clicking every single track I want to change the color to, I can just open up my mixer window, and I can simply just click with ease, and I can select whatever color I want it to be. Which brings me to the other point I wanted to make. Notice how in this piano, because it doesn't have the black and white icon on there, if I was to change the color on this piano, let's say this piano I wanted it orange, it would reflect that in the mixer window, but it would not reflect that in my tracks list here, okay, because this icon is not capable of changing colors. You would have to select one of those black and white images. So if I was to look here, it'd make it a lot harder for me to distinguish tracks if I just had this versus the color-coded image. And also another thing you want to do, I know I made that hot pink, but usually want to keep the track colors and the region colors the same. So I want the track color to also be the same shade of blue that I assigned that. I think it was one of these, whatever. It was blue, so I want to keep it blue. Okay, so you want to keep the track the same color as the regions, so everything meshes together and it's easier to find what's what when you have like 50 tracks into your project and it's getting to be a little crowded. Okay, the next thing I want to go over with you is how to create track folders. Let's say I had 10 tracks here. So I'm going to actually duplicate this by hitting Command D on my keyboard, duplicate a few of them. Okay, and let's say these ones were associated to the melody. Okay, so let's say I had just for name or just for the sake of showing you their more visual perspective, let's say that this region was a melody and this here were the chords. Okay, so I have 4 tracks worth of chords and I have 3 tracks worth of melodies. So it's a little messy right now. It's not the best organized. What I can do is I can create a track folder or a track stack to help organize it. So how do you organize it? There's 2 ways of doing it. You can either right click on the specific track and you can hit create track stack, or you can use the associated key command of Shift Command D. Okay, I want to teach you guys all different key commands, which is why I'm going to be using Shift Command D. All right, so I'm going to hit Shift Command D on my keyboard, and it's going to give me 2 options. It's going to give me folder stack, or it's going to give me summing stack. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to be working within folder stacks. However, in a future video, I will show you the difference between a folder stack and a summing stack. Folder stacks are purely for organization, so I'm going to click those. Okay, And now I have created a folder stack. All right. So notice how in this folder stack, this little curve in the track here, this is all the, so this essentially just shows all the tracks that are within that folder. So there's a drop down arrow right here, okay, and the ones that are curved are the ones that are associated to that folder stack. So I'm going to name this, remember how we did it, we're going to hit enter and shift on our keyboard, and I'm going to name this, what is this? This is our chords, so chords folder. All right, just to keep it organized. So there's also two ways that you can bring these tracks into your folder. You can either drag them into the folder like so, or if I was to backtrack a bit here, before I created that folder, I can pre-select all of the tracks that I want associated to that specific folder, being these chord tracks, and I can hit Shift Command D, and when I have those pre-selected before creating the folder, they automatically become a part of that folder. Okay, so that's two ways to create a track stack, folder stack specifically. Okay, we're not going to be dealing with summing stacks in this project. Now the last thing I want to go over is notes. All right, so your notes tab here is actually going to be really handy for keeping track of your project, keeping everything nice and tidy and organized. And the way to go about doing this is you're going to make notes about your project. So for example, BPM. Right now I have 120 BPM in this project. So BPM is going to be 120. And the scale that I'm going to be working in with this project, let's say I don't remember because I returned to it, I don't know, a month later, and I don't want to have to go through all the notes and chords to find out what scale I used. I can just make a note of it in here. So scale, this project is an A minor, okay? And these are the steps that I took. So let's say I have a version 1.1 or 1.2 in this file, so I can write version 1.1, and then I can make a note of all the steps I did. So I can say EQ'd chords, and so on and so forth. So if you save multiple versions of your project as you go, because you don't want to lose the previous project that you made in case you want to make some changes there, you can just make notes and you can find out which version you want to go back to and kind of fix stuff if you've gone too far on subsequent files. And it's also great if you just want to make notes on your project in general. So for example, here I made notes on A minor and 120 BPM. Let's say I accidentally changed to BPM and I couldn't remember what it was before. I can just revert to this notes file and I can see that, oh, hey, it's 120 BPM. And I can just change it back to 120 BPM. Same thing if you make other unwanted changes in any of your other tracks or regions. You can easily revert back to here, see the regions or tracks how they originally were, and you can revert it back to there with ease instead of having to revert back to the previous projects that you might have saved, or you getting completely lost and having no idea what you did. Okay, now once I've done all those 5 steps, I have created a very organized project that incorporates all those things that I talked about before. So let's see, I have names. So I've named all my tracks according to what they are. I've named the regions, how I want them to be. Each region has its specific name that corresponds with its track. I have created folders, okay? So when I'm working, it's not overwhelming as to what I am doing, okay? I have also assigned specific colors to the tracks and the regions, and I have made notes on everything I did from different versions of this project. And that is that. That is what I have to teach you about how to organize your project in Logic Pro X. If you did like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, and have a good day.